And good evening. We are live from Hamilton, Ontario, and Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. And from Utah, we have Andy Martens and Lilly Landikusic. And welcome everyone to Let's Talk Real Talk on Parental Alienation tonight. I especially like to welcome all the people out there that are not familiar with what parental alienation is, because if you haven't gone to family court, you won't know what you are going to be dealing with if you do. So welcome, Andy. Good to see you. I hear you got a lot of snow in this
You
too.
you got it. We have over 4 feet of snow, maybe even more than that. Um, there are other areas in Ontario like the Muskokas, Bracebridge, Aurelia, further down south that got as much, but I think we got enough snow for the winter. I wasn't so happy to see it end today, but
Well, I was
it's
shocked by your photos.
Lake effect snows coming off the lake. It's simple as that. So
Right.
luckily they shipped it to Upper Michigan, right across the coast. Lake Superior is a big lake. So yeah, we've got enough snow, and I'm sore and I'm tired. Got all
Well,
kinds of stuff.
you could have it all. Molly and
Yeah,
I like to sprinkle today. It's just dusting the ground, but when the sun hits it, it disappears.
I'd
So,
like to take a plane out of here for a couple of weeks to escape the snow.
well, Cuba looks good at this time of year. But
Like
anyways,
okay, great to be here, Mary. Yeah, let's
good to have you. And you too, Lily. Welcome to Let's Talk with Andy Martins and myself, Mary Auld-Kovacs and Molly. I have to make sure we put Molly in there. She's the reason why I'm here. So, Andy's going to be asking you the questions while I'm sharing this podcast to all the groups out there and to Lincoln. We're going to YouTube. We go to the Andy Martins page and the Mary Kovacs page. So anybody out there that can share this, please do, because this is very important. Parental alienation is a worldwide pandemic, and we are losing people like crazy because suicide mode is like the last resort for people that are losing their children. It's no different than a kidnapper coming to steal your kids and you never get to see them again. Or, it happens to parents out there, moms and dads and grandparents. We're all suffering. So, welcome, Lily and Andy. Lily, start off by, telling us how you got to this and why you are advocating for, support out there for alienated parents, grandparents, and children.
You bet. Thank you for having me.
You're
Um,
welcome. You're just gonna have to speak up a little bit. We could barely hear you.
all right, let me know if I need to change
can
my
you hear
device.
me, Mary? Or
I hear you great, Andy. And Lily,
okay.
that was good.
Okay.
All right,
That
the good
that
level, Lily. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good.
that's good.
Um, there's so many stories of alienation, millions now. Um, I was shocked at my own severe story, but I was even more shocked to find that there's an ocean of victims who have lost access to their child. And after I went through it, I'm a professional, so I have a counseling agency that treats families in the home, and I've been practicing for over 25 years. So
Wow.
when it happened to me, I just was shocked that the system didn't have protections in place. And so I've spent the last 6 years really dedicating my career and a lot of my personal life, like so many other survivors, to looking at solutions. And I'm human and imperfect, and I just want to throw that out there for everyone else who's struggling with alienation. I feel like we, most of the individuals I've met with very severe cases are very beautiful, sensitive people who came from childhood trauma as well. And I think the trauma goes back before our exes. And it goes into our childhood with a lot of unresolved, sometimes multi-generational trauma. I've worked with victims who will kind of completely disconnect that they went through a horrible alienation case as a child because they were still even in the midst of an active case. So my focus on change, in my limited, human flawed efforts, is really on the mental health. And I've been so privileged and fortunate to meet with other heroes and see what other survivors have created in programs, legislation, uh, lawsuits. But I haven't seen a lot of programs that are solution focused, that bring the parents together in a voluntary or court-ordered form, that walks them through steps of repairing, healing, accountability, using trauma-informed protocols, which in most states are required with a DV charge or a DV case. So what I'm finding in my work, as I started to stand up, I met with really extreme suppression. And then I felt like we are all called. I feel like everyone who has witnessed a case of the horrific damages of not just parental alienation abuse, but the injustice that is coupled. There's no successful alienation case, meaning they were able to take a child from a loving and safe parent without uh, a community participating at a minimum, let alone professionals. So that was probably the most shocking part, is that my industry that I've dedicated my life, I started at 17, I'm 58 now. So I really wanted better for people that I know what I went through as a child. I get emotional, and I want to share a little bit about that too. But I wanted to make a difference. And when I had successfully made a difference, we serve over 350 kids and high-risk families every week with my agency.
Wow.
And we started in-home, which everyone told me, you can't do that. Only the government can do in-home. And I got my first contract with Hill Air Force Base and then the University of Utah. And now in-home is an accepted, it used to be considered alternative, but it's a family systems model that treats the parents. So where a child or a victim will be referred to therapy, any person who's been targeted or a victim of alienation knows what that means. You'll get the 5 assessments. You'll be ordered to the evaluator, the reunification therapist, the special master. And usually the abuser has no accountability. They just press a button. I want to do a new falsified allegation today. And then the victim is losing their job, suicidal. It is the most shocking failure, I think, in the United States right now, is the failure of
Right.
the justice system
I
in
just looked
family
up
justice.
I just looked up the statistics on suicide in the United States only. Well, actually, I think it's gone worldwide, but it's 13.2 million people have either attempted, contemplated, or gone through it. And that is huge due to parental alienation, because that's how many parents and children have gone through it. More than that, that's actually, 13.22 million, but it's over 55 million worldwide that have been alienated. And I know of 6 decades of it. I know people that have been shot because of it, committed suicide, died because they died of a broken heart. Broken heart syndrome is real. Grandparents are dying without seeing their grandchildren, and shame on the adult children for holding back a grandparent. I'm now getting to the point where enough is enough, because
Enough is enough.
children are growing up accusing parents of abuse. But yet these children
Mhm.
are out there right now trashing their parents on TikTok, on YouTube.
Mhm.
I mean, I watched the Netflix last night on the cat killer. He was just a young man, killing cats. And I'm glad he got caught. But he got so messed up because of his family upbringing, right? Trauma. He got life in prison because he threatened the world that it wasn't just animals I'm going to kill. I'm going to start killing
Mhm.
humans. And he killed someone on live on YouTube. So these children are growing up psychologically abused, and they don't know anything but abuse, and they're getting their thrills on abusing us. And if,
Well,
you know,
just imagine a child that gets, a $300 an hour attorney and they're 5 years old and they get a guardian ad litem who says, "What do you want? What do you want?" rubbing the small of their back as they go on stage. I can tell story after story as a whistleblower about the clear and present danger of the United States family law systems in regard to families in crises and victims of alienation, coercive control. One of the biggest dilemmas we have now is most of, if not all, the states are denying parental alienation. Well, kick it over into custodial interference. That's
yes,
provable, scientific
yes,
parental abduction. How about child kidnapping? How about falsified allegations? So, my message to the deniers is you are potentially causing 22 million victims to lose access between a parent and child. That is a brazen and completely irresponsible professional endeavor to profit off of denying alienation or dividing fathers against mothers, step parents against biological parents. I like to tell fathers or mothers' rights who say it's all fathers. Every case of a severe father that I've experienced involved a girlfriend. So, what was her role? When I worked in the prison, one of the units I was not able to work in, I've worked in all different kinds of treatment settings and psychiatric settings. The one I could not work in ethically because I was unable to have empathy was the sex offender unit of the women's prison. And all of them were involved in sex crimes with their partner, a man. And so for women to say no woman is capable of abuse of their child, that is just promoting a huge medical misinformation. And it encourages men and women to divide. And who profits? It's always the same. We know who profits when grandparents, step parents, families, and sometimes they encourage a fight to the death. So if someone takes someone's children and doesn't give them access to get them back, what I recently uncovered, and I wanted to share this with Mary. We've been talking to Dr. Burnett, who's done so much work in trying to get family or parental alienation in the DSM so it could be identified, treatable. We can identify cases. A lot of times we can identify the case before the client knows now that we've been working in the field. So if it's an identifiable suicide, like this person has maybe an 80% higher rate of some fatality, and we can identify it, we have a duty to warn as every mental health professional, every legal professional, anybody who works with children and families and has chosen that as your career, you have a responsibility to learn about the laws regarding alienation. I've seen trainings where therapists are promoting that it doesn't exist or that it was made up as pseudoscience from someone that promoted sex with pedophiles. That's just complete medical malpractice coming out of some of the most accomplished universities. So I always like to ask One Mom's Battle or apparently this new Me Too family court, come into a panel. If you're making money off of promoting that custodial interference isn't real, think about. And then what we have happening now in Utah that we're starting to do a documentary about is confronting the DA, the GAL's office, the Utah Bar, the ethics. We've requested their involvement, DCFS and the ombudsman, and we get funneled into a feedback loop. And I notice a lot of people that are standing up, they get that pushback. And so now we want to go public with it. If this is fact-based, why isn't it enforced? So we've got amazing heroes out there like Robert Garza who are starting to do the 3 strikes law, right? We can't even get 1 strike.
the
Why?
three strikes started off with Joan Cloth Sanard,
I
both,
love their work.
yeah,
And
Parental
my
Alienation Study Group.
and they are phenomenal. And
Yeah,
there's
she's
so
out
much
in
we can
Connecticut. Yeah,
there's so
sorry.
much we can talk about. And I don't want to, I know we're going short tonight, so maybe I can jump ahead and just give some messages, and then maybe Andy, you and Mary can let me know feedback. But I see change coming. I just want to encourage, my message is from Voice of Hope, that people are standing up. People are winning their cases. One of the most striking cases I think of win is the story of Maya, I believe. And her
Yes.
mom, it wasn't, they were married. So it was a
Hmm.
couple, and she was alienated by the hospital, and they
Yeah.
did a misdiagnosis. So every case of alienation has a misdiagnosis. It's usually estrangement. That's not alienation. It's usually a falsified allegation of abuse. Alienation is the opposite, that the abuser falsified and was able to get falsified protective order, a falsified narrative, supervised visits, financial abuse. And this brings me to my exciting new tool that we've incorporated in our services at Empowerment Online and Empowerment Counseling Services is litigation abuse syndrome. So that's already in the DSM. So we don't have to work to talk them into it. And every case that I've seen of parental alienation has and meets the criteria of litigation abuse syndrome. And if you can get a screener for that, we've developed one. We're trying to put these for free on our Empowerment Online so that you can use them with your own therapist. But think about that. The family court system that forces you to go there, monopolizes, creates RICO. They deny any non-AFCC or any, countering information that they've failed due process, blocked a parental rights, constitutional rights. Anytime you stand up against them, right, you get squashed. It doesn't matter who you are, how wealthy you are. It doesn't matter if you're man, father, mother. I'm seeing that as soon as you stand up and say, hey, my rights and my access to my child are being blocked illegally, you get like shoved down whatever Willy Wonka bar gets pulled, and you go into the never return. And you could have a black and white case of fraud, perjury, taking a child out of the country. I've seen just, and that's the litigation abuse, is people come to me believing they're going to win their case if they have the evidence. And we had a dad go to jail just a month ago, and he had a clear-cut case. We wrote letters to his probation. Now we're writing for the first time a mental health assessment for litigation abuse syndrome. Now in this assessment, I'm going to write that because I have all the evidence, I've been monitoring this case for 6 months. We reached out to his co-parent and opposing counsel with our amicable co-parenting program. Father paid for it, so it wouldn't cost anything. No. We therapy, no. Mediation, no. Everything is denied. So we have clear-cut proof now for malicious litigation and litigation abuse syndrome. But the shocking piece of this is to think about something that would be the equivalent of the National Medical Association, that it's causing ACEs. It's causing adverse childhood experiences that we know cause permanent damage. So if you can get a hold of this litigation abuse syndrome and get a therapist to diagnose, then you can demand that you are prevented from the system that's causing you permanent damages. And then you can demand mediation. And Vernon was going to come on today, but he's the only agency that I know internationally, Mary, that's like ours, that is working with cases of alienation in a program. And so I
Right.
wanted to
We've been
share.
doing it for about 10 years now.
Mm,
So,
so impressed. And he and I were talking about like some ways of supporting each other and creating a model online that any therapist or any practitioner, any mediator could use. And I want to thank everybody who's come before me. I love that Mary credited these people that have come before. Mary's an OG, standing up before it was trendy, taking hits, right? And I
oh,
think
yeah.
all of us need to thank anyone who's come before you to help you learn about your case and how to get help. There's so many fascinating people that have gone through horrific cases that somehow turn their pain into healing, and then they spread it. So I want to encourage people to look out for those. Interference with Child Custody Coalition helped me tremendously, and I still go back to them. And some of their, I consider them some of my closest friends. There's so many other people that I was able to just interview, but I don't know them close. But a lot of these heroes are accessible. People don't know that. Give them a call and say, could I meet with you? Could I pay for an hour? But change is coming. That's my message today.
Yeah.
I see it. There is a wave. There's people doing lawsuits and they're winning, and congratulations to them. And then they're turning around and showing other victims and survivors how to do your own lawsuit. I'm starting online co-parenting programs, and I see people kind of taking our information and launching their own ideas. And
Right.
I've had to pull back a little from casework. Mary, I was going to talk to you about that. I feel like I'm getting a little emotional. Like I worked with two suicidal cases this past weekend, and
Andy and I know all about that. We ran our show 7 days a week with 8 guests. We had
so
2 on Sunday, Saturday nights, and it wore
yeah,
us out to listen to hundreds. We're probably about 1,000, I guess, if not more, Andy,
Yeah,
guests
at least.
in three and
Yeah.
a half years. And,
it's
and if we've got
incredible,
that
Mary.
many to come out and talk about what they've gone through, imagine the ones that haven't come out, because they're
Oh,
scared,
yeah.
they're ashamed, or they've been blocked. They've been shadow banned even on social media. They've been silenced. And, they have to come out. They got to come out, because without their voice, all these non-believers or these fake investigative journalists are out there trashing alienated parents by thinking that they know what they're talking about, and they've never been alienated. I mean, Susan Bassey is out in California. She was alienated. She was a strong woman. She picked herself up off that ground for the last 10 years and went out. And now she's going into every courtroom, catching judges, lawyers, CAS or whatever, CPS in the United States, right? And all these other professionals, she's catching them on camera. They're lying. And they started all these lawsuits taking lawyers and judges to court out in Silicon Valley, because it's gotten so bad that they're making hundreds and millions of dollars on
It's
suffering parents. It's
it's
worse
such a
than seeing
serious
them
issue.
jumping out of the buildings. You know how they go bankrupt in the build and they come and get the news, and you can see them flying off the 20 floors committing suicide. Well, it's no different. Money does not replace your child. So these alienated parents are suffering so much. They're
Mhm.
gone, heart attacks, nerve disease, diabetes, because stress kills. And not knowing where your children are is the worst thing. And being with an abuser that you've been trying to protect them from because nobody listened to you for 5, 10, 15 years earlier, and then all
Mhm.
of a sudden you go
Mhm.
to get a
Mhm.
divorce, and, oh, why didn't you
Mhm.
tell us? Well, you know what? I did, or we did. You just didn't listen. You had no clue what was going on, right? A lot of these
Right.
people don't want to listen to what we're saying. They think we make it up. And that was because we were stereotyped as women. A lot of us as women have been
Mhm. Mhm.
stereotyped by calling us liars because one woman lied. But how do you know that woman really lied? Because abuse is, like you said, a childhood trauma. It comes out in the elderly. They get dementia really fast. This is something that we've been watching now for decades. We know what the
Yeah, it's
stages are, right?
anyone who wants to research the best is Nadine Burks, and go online and check her out. She's got statistics. She came out and did a YouTube and said, "Oh, I'm so excited. We did this ACEs, study with 26,000, and they were able to create an evidence-based screener for the effects of trauma. They were able to show that if you have a high ACEs screener, which every single alienated case is off the chart. If you need to look at that, our course is free. It's easy to find online. Do it. Check your own trauma out. Look at some PTSD screeners, but the evidence shows that victims that you're talking about, Mary, have a 20-year average less of
Life
life.
is, yeah.
So everyone out there, I want you to hear this message. If you've gone through this, one, you're not alone. Don't let your mind get into a victim set that it's only happening to men or it's only happening to people who don't have money. Be really careful you don't get into a victim mindset, because it can get in your head. And those are the hardest cases for me to work with, is when they come and they're just like, no one's going to help me, and there's no hope, and no one in my city, and I've already done that. And we
Yeah.
have cases that are So then my part two is you talk to your family and the people that love you, and you decide what your activism, what your healing path. I've had to take time out from this because I'll get attacked by a victim. They're drowning. We'll go in to help them and they'll just start attacking me or diagnosing me. And I'm like, I'm sure I'm diagnosable. Like, believe me, but you know,
Oh, they do that to us, eh, Andy?
it's
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah,
so
Listen, I want to get in. I've
get
got
in
to
here.
go here at the bottom of the hour. Lily, there's a pattern though. You say, yeah, I've been alienated and whatnot, but people do not take the amount of time to get to know by somebody.
Mhm.
Mary and I have done the shows. Mary and I have known each other for over 3 years, 3.5 years. I'm not
going
going
on
to get
4.
into the specifics of what's going on with me here personally, but um, they simply don't. And they rush, oh, good looking guy and all of this, or good looking woman. And they don't get to know somebody. And that's
Well,
when you get into trouble.
it's
The
even worse than that
alienator is setting you up for that.
as a therapist, this is, kind of this empowerment model that piggybacking on what you're saying, we notice this with rape victims that you would think that after you go through an assault like that, you would have a less statistic. It's actually much higher, just like divorce. 50% your first, 75 your second. Why? And a lot of it we're finding is you attract your trauma. So that's why it's so important that wherever you're at in your healing, I wake up still with nightmares. There's the loss of your child and I'm learning to cry about it more. I'm learning to be able to stop acting like I've got it all together all the time, because you bring up my
It's good
daughter.
to cry. It's good to cry,
I
Lily.
got
I
to
mean,
go, ladies. I'll watch the rest of the show. Great job.
Oh,
okay,
thank
Andy,
you.
thank
I
you.
will close. I know we were going for a shorter show, but
No,
I
it's
can.
okay. We don't need to shorten it. It's all right. We're good. But I just want to get back to it. I mean, I cried for 17 years. And then, boom, I got hit with a trial. They brought me back to court. When they brought me back to a trial after 17 years, they said I wanted nothing to do with them. For 17 years, I advocated, I wrote, I emailed, I wrote messages to the lawyer. Even their lawyer denied giving me
Well,
any
Mary,
contact.
can I ask you something here? How do you, like, when you say you cry, what healing space do you share from mother to mother that helps us share that with other survivors, that you're okay, it wasn't your fault, that
When how I did it was I got up every morning like I was going to work, even though I didn't go to work. I'm retired, so I got up every morning, had my coffee, and I checked my social media. And by then, 11 o'clock comes, and 11 o'clock was my hardest every morning because that's when I would get them up on weekends and stuff, and we would sit around and just chit chat. So my routine was still the same as it is today with them, but without them. So, anyways, at
Mhm.
11 o'clock, tears would start coming down. And I would cry for a half hour, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 5.
Mhm.
And now I shed tears, just like you. I could catch it. But it's good because then it makes me
Mhm.
feel like I'm close to my kids again. Because when we cry, do you know our children feel it? They feel our emotions long ways away. When I lived in Europe, my mother felt my cries because I missed her. My ex took me overseas to never see my family in 7 years. Now, this is how they do it. Our abusers take us far away. They take us
Mhm.
away from phones
Mhm.
and all that. But I felt my mother, so I would write and I give them messages. On how I felt through my letters. They wrote back. And finally, found out that, hey, yeah, they do have phones in Germany because my ex told me that they couldn't get it to where we were. And then my landlord, I went down to visit my landlord one day and the phone rang. She was deaf, so she had that flashing light,
Mhm.
right? So I
Mhm.
asked her, why do you have a flashing, like I asked her husband, I said, why do you have a flashing light? Someone deaf? And he says, yeah, my wife can't hear. So the fake ringer's not ringing. So we don't disturb you. 6 months I lived in that house. I couldn't call my family because my ex told me that the phone lines wouldn't reach that far out in the Black Forest. And I'm thinking, wow, how stupid was I? I'm stuck for 6 months in this house all alone. So I went out, got a job, and I reflect back to the times when I cry on how I got to this spot today. So then I brings back memories on how I survived it, and it makes me stronger. So those tears that I shed while I was alienated was to help me get through the life that I went through with my kids to get to where we are today. And I know my kids miss me. I know they do.
Yeah.
I mean, we all had a wonderful relationship, and it's because our alienators are jealous of the relationship we had. I mean, I can't control what he did for a living because he was with the army and they took him away. That wasn't me that kicked him out, but he treated me like it was my fault that he had to go away, and made the kids feel it too. So the kids and I, once he was gone, we could breathe, because when he came home, he made us feel like we had to dote on him and do everything. And he got to be treated like a king because he was, gone away from us. No, no, no. You come back and you put yourself back where you were as a dad and do your chores and whatever,
I,
play
I
with the
think that's
kids.
one of the pieces that I try to encourage too when we're working with clients is, the alienator and abuser is really mentally ill. And they are a victim of usually severe, severe trauma where they integrated the abuser. Every person, in my opinion, and according to one of my uh, mentors that I really I connected with, that when you go through childhood trauma, you integrate, like say somebody's beating you for the first time, the first thing that a child will do is put themselves in the shoes of the person doing it. So you have to align, and it's kind of a part of being able to have empathy or see perspective to your situation, and acknowledge it. So if someone hit you, the first thing you do is, what's happening? Why would they do that? And when you're doing that with an abuser, you kind of have to put yourself in the abuser's shoes, but it doesn't make sense. And some of the kids that we see that don't get help become they take on the abuser role, and then the other takes on the victim role. And I try to get victims to survivors, see right there. I try to get victims to see themselves as survivors, that you are incredible. You are a miracle. Who survives being, preyed on, and having someone sleeping with the enemy, and having them in your accounts, and changing passwords, and trying to literally kill you? I mean, some of these cases are like, we had two poisons in Utah, and one of the moms wrote a book about how she was grieving and how to overcome grief, and she poisoned her husband. So these are people that look like primary school teachers. The woman that was having an affair and taking my children with my ex was a church teacher. And so it really messes up your hard wiring about good and bad. And then when you
Yeah.
have good memories, usually Thanksgiving, it's full of horrific triggers. Christmas, horrific triggers. Seeing a baseball mitt, right? Most parents would say, oh, I found this baseball mitt, let's clean it out. For an alienated parent, that can send you into a month of depression. So as I know we'll have more time to talk, Mary, about some of our efforts in our documentary, but like tonight, I really want to encourage what you said about, if it's crying, if it's advocating, if it's doing lawsuits, if you want to help some of the social activism, if you want to get involved in a documentary, there's so many avenues now, but do what's right for you. Put you and your healing and your children and your case first. Get in support groups that feel good. I've been in some support groups where it's very bashing, very negative, very attacking of father's rights or mother's rights. I mean, just really hateful, hurtful, like, and I wish the moderators out there who are involved in parental alienation protection would really call out when we have victims who are clearly not, are activated. We call it activated in your trauma. So you're almost talking in PTSD. That's why these diagnoses in mental health are so serious. PTSD is real.
It
If
is.
someone gets activated, they believe right now my child's been taken. I wake up with that. I get it. If you don't know it, you shouldn't be working in the field. I don't think
Right.
anybody who hasn't gone through alienation should be working in the field. No lawyer,
Right.
judge. And we're going to come out with all them.
If you
I'm
don't know it,
noticing
that's right.
if you don't know it.
How are you gonna teach it? It's not like being on the street smart, you know. You have to be
Mhm.
alienated smart.
In fact,
And
we did a forensics training, and the trainer said, if you are not trained in how to deal with an antisocial sociopath, psychopath, you need to stay away, because he said
mm-hmm,
you'll get therapists. "Oh, I'm street smart. I can tell." No, he said, I, within first 3 seconds, don't ask if they're lying or not. He said, I ask, are they antisocial sociopath or which type of liar?
yeah.
And if you don't know the difference, I think that's what's one of the scariest parts about alienation is that 22 million people, 22 million good parents. Alienation has nothing to do with the person who was removed being abusive. That's this false narrative. We're talking about authentic, true alienation cases where a beautiful, flawed, but beautiful, loving, and fully safe parent was blocked from access to their child and access to their rights. There's no mixed gray about it. And anybody who denies it, please have them call me and let's come on Mary's show. One Mom's Battle. Let's come on and talk about it. And let's have these facts come out. And if you're making profit off alienation denial, that is a sinister, that is like giving cancer causing chemicals to pediatric cancer patients and promoting that you're. I've seen some of these people who are deniers in newspaper articles.
Mm-hmm.
uh, I've written some of them in Utah. I'm not going to name names tonight, but we will in the documentary. And I said, it's not if, but when the next murder suicide happens. And we have prevention screeners, we have intervention programs, we have, virtually free online courses that are accessible. And you guys are gatekeeping and preventing these from the public. And I said, so if another, and it's not if, it's going to happen, you'll be responsible with blood on your hands. And then the month later, Mary, that Enoch family was murdered of 8. A month later, after I talked to the AFCC in Utah saying, please help me, we can get this information out there. And every time I stand up, I get blocked until I say, let's put a documentary on this. So that's another thing I'd recommend to people. If you feel courageous enough, because you will get attacked, is take a camera with you and ask the DA, hey, we've got a case right here of a dad who just went to jail. I can name case after case right now. I went to the ombudsman and the ombudsman said, parental alienation, Lilly, is not legislated. I said, well, custodial interference is. And we found out last week when we did standing up for a parent who has been chronically alienated, went to jail. After he got out of jail, a clerical error prevented another 3 weeks, and no one would stand up. I said, who's saying he can't see his kids? He was around his kids before the whole falsified protective order that led to the falsified, incarceration, inappropriate, unethical, illegal incarceration. So he's been blocked. And then when he gets out, no one, not in probation, not with the police, not with the court, made sure that he had access to his kids. So it
And
took us
that's what they
3
did to
weeks.
me. I was falsely arrested. And then when my probation was over, a week later, that night was my birthday. My daughter called. She wanted to see me. And the father watched through the window and called the police and had me falsely arrested again. So I went on back to jail on breach. So that permitted me to see my kids for 4 months. And
Mm,
then when I went to court, I fought the charges. I beat the charges. No evidence whatsoever. And then a month later, we had the custody hearing, and the custody judge was a criminal judge that came over to do a favor for the ex's lawyer, first of all.
mm,
So he obviously was paid. And he also had a Christmas dinner the night before with the ex's lawyer. And the ex's lawyer blurted it out in the courtroom before Justice Taylor came out saying, oh, this is going to be an easy case because Justice Taylor and I, we had a family Christmas dinner last night. We discussed the case and we all know the dad's going to get the kids, the girls. And I'm thinking, oh my God. Oh my
These
God.
cases, I've
So
seen cases in back doors, Mary, where the case was brutally destroyed and horrible things were done to the victim. And I'll be sitting in the room going, these kids will never be the same. You guys are all
no,
laughing.
yeah.
And if you
But
think
the
your
thing was
lawyer
that
is not schmoozing with the other side, I just want to say, I've had people 30, 50, 300,000 in and say, no, my lawyers, well, did they do a custodial interference charge? No, what's that? Oh, did they do
well,
child
that's it.
kidnapping? Right?
The thing was these two lawyers were only a year lawyers. They were both year because
And
when
that's,
when
yes,
I'm coming out of prison, they give you a list. So what they're going to do
yes.
is give you a list of the newbies, right?
Well, and they'll even the ones who are senior, they'll talk to you as if we had a lawyer the other day tell a client you can't do a documentary, that's part of your mediation. That's completely false. We have clients come to us every single day saying, I was told I have to get a lawyer. You don't. I was told that I can't do mediation. That's a lie. I was told I can't do a custodial interference charge. You can do one every single day, every single day. And if they're not allowing you, we train professionals and parents how to stand up and get, Claudia Ovalis, I just want to thank her, but she was phenomenally instrumental in my case. And I didn't give up. I just kept going, how does this happen? That people can't access their children. This is beyond third world country. This is like allowing people to profit off the kidnapping of children every day in plain sight is to
Right.
me the
Let me
definition
just
of the United
let me
States.
just let me just say this too, though. I was going to finish that the judge that I had for my hearing, he knew that a month before I was proven innocent, but yet during the custody hearing, the whole time he
It's just,
focused on me and how if I prove that my innocent, if I get let off, if the judge sees that this was all manipulated, if, and I'm thinking, I got to, I spoke up. I said I had to speak, right? But they altered the transcripts and took out everything. But I told him right
that
to
too.
his face, I said to him, I am proven innocent. It's over. There is no charges. Why are you still condemning me? That's what
Mary.
I said to him. And I ended up losing my kids. But this was at the end when I said it. It
Mm,
wasn't, I just sat there for the whole
mm.
time to listen to a judge go around 360, knowing that that person is innocent, but yet he's still making the case around that person. Now, this is what's happening in every court case. They're not talking about the best interest of the children. They're more worried about the targeted parent on what they did,
Well,
even
the
though
silver
it's proven
bullet,
innocent.
the silver
That's the
bullet
silver
is
bullet. Yes.
it's a very clear strategy. If you haven't researched that and you're in a case, you need to look at it. And if you have parental alienation, there's some form of the silver bullet that you're in, whether it's
Yeah,
falsified
of
allegations,
course.
blocked access. We're
But
trying
the
to
thing
create a
is that that's our money. This is our money that these judges and lawyers are billing
Mhm.
us for, right? So why are we paying for some kind of a service out there that has nothing to do with
so
the children?
so
And
I
this is why
want
children should not be in family court.
family
This
court.
is no, this they should not because they're being used. It's played against us.
And for my, maybe we can talk about this next time, but for my work with alienation that I want to leave behind before I pass away is a tool that makes family court obsolete. So
Yes,
it's such a low bar, right? To improve a kindergarten teacher, anybody who works with IEPs, special needs kids, they know how we meet as therapists
I
and
did that.
the individual rights. So, and we all have
Yes,
everybody sign it and then we come back every week to make sure everybody's monitoring. A kindergarten teacher would do better in revamping the family court system. So it's, to me, it's not reformable. It is too entrenched. Like it would be like offering oil and gas to do climate control, whatever your political, maybe that's not, that won't be, you know, target too many people on America's political divides, but it's like giving a cancer causing company the ability to lobby that they are doing cancer prevention, and they block. So I feel like these prevention programs like ours, we do in-home, we've started online courses, and now I've started this litigation abuse syndrome screener, which will help parents be able to say, I don't have to go to court. In fact, the court has caused my damages and I have the right to get trauma-informed care that specializes. And there are clauses in the law if you're disabled, if you have PTSD, if you're diagnosed. So I want people to know the law can protect the law, that
Yes.
DCFS and child abuse criteria can protect against it. We just have to stand up and get more aggressive. When you
Mm-hmm.
say go after the money, the best way is not to get an attorney anymore. If we did a huge campaign and everybody fired their attorneys, because we can show people how to be pro se. We've had more success by far. I have only one case, and the attorney ended up utilizing all of our tools to go after the workers that did not have justified reasons. He went after them, they folded. Dad got all of a sudden magically, when the professionals who are corrupt to get the spotlight on them, oh, the kids can go to their visitation now. Yes, the dad is safe. And then you see, wow, they know what they're doing. They
Oh,
like
yeah. I
it
had a
would.
lawyer for my trial and I had to use legal aid. My lawyer got disbarred. Legal aid in Upper Ontario, Canada caught him. So they disbarred him. And so I had to find another lawyer. I got another lawyer and he did it. He got the legal aid. I got the certificate and he got to, you know, continue the trial. But at the end of the trial, he said to me he will never take another legal aid case. I said, "Oh, why?" He goes, "Because it's didn't pay enough." And when I got the bill, I looked at it and I started laughing. I said, "You guys don't. You're not even worth that."
No. If
And
you
it was
can't
only
enforce
twelve
the law,
hundred
and
dollars.
if you
Legal aid
can't,
paid him. They paid him
if,
$1,200. He turned his nose up on that, and I'm thinking, you know what? For everything that you did it maybe 18 years ago, but you didn't do it right. And at
didn't
that
do it
time, the
right,
judge took the
didn't do it
money out
right.
of our house to give them the down payment for the court fees. They took $15,000 out of our pockets the second we filed for divorce. Well, the ex filed for divorce, but I had to go. So they're taking my money from my home, but left me homeless. So to
Yes,
them, money
yes.
is more important
Well,
than
we see attorneys that will bail before a hearing. I need another 1500. I mean,
that's
it's
what happened
almost
to me. Yeah.
mafia, snake oil, RICO.
Yeah.
If you can get out of the system, if you can ask for
Get
a
out.
litigation abuse screener, PTSD screener, say that you're having, valid, and every case I know has it. It's not playing a game or falsifying, it's using the law to protect the law. And then saying you demand a mediation program that's trauma informed. We have one that we're offering in January, and we're trying to make it as free and accessible as we possibly can and offer certificates. But ours walks through how to prep your case, how to prep your forms, how to do a litigation ACEs PTSD screener, how to show any penal codes that were broken in your case. So every single case that we meet doesn't know that there's penal codes for custodial interference, taking a child out of state, falsifying documents. And then once you start to get your case, so you're saying, I'm trying to do co-parenting, I'm trying to do the right thing, I'm trying to access therapy, and I'm getting blocked. And now then we kick it into, wow, it looks like you're a victim of malicious litigation,
Yes.
and that opposing counsel needs to be put on point. And I feel like that two-pronged, you need to be ready, you need to be role modeling the right things, you need to be offering trauma-informed solutions and therapy, but you also need to be setting an extreme boundary that if you don't have access to your legal rights and you're a safe parent, that's equivalent to sex abuse of your child happening every single day. It should be
Yes.
urgent. There's nothing more profound in this world of anything that I've seen, Mary, that's more powerful than the bond between a healthy and safe parent and their child. There's
Mm-hmm.
If a society will let that bond be destroyed, let alone for profit, we are on the verge of a collapse. This is what we're protecting as advocates. And that's why I'm so grateful to you, Mary. You were one of the first people when I was going through my case that I said, that's happening to me. And so we need to keep standing up, whatever your story is or where you want to get
Historical
involved.
cases, yes. Historical cases are what the new people should see, that, oh, wow, if that happened 15 years ago, I remember someone else going through it 20 years ago. My ex-husband has been alienated for 64 years. So, of course, he learned the tactics to alienate me, right? His mother helped him take my kids, but his mother took his father away. It was not me, it was his mother. Don't punish the wife for what your wife or
So
your husband did. And this is what's happening,
exactly. Every
you know?
alienator has an enabler. Everyone
Yeah.
needs to know that. And
Yeah.
if you have to fight, go after the enabler. If you've got a coach, a girlfriend, a boyfriend, we had a boyfriend who was a cop on a case, horrific form, took about 3 years. The father finally gave up. This cop in Utah killed himself. So he orchestrated the alienation of an amazing dad, and the dad gave up and just took, I remember calling on one of the mental health exams on that, and I said to the worker, dad's saying that he didn't hit the kid with a closed fist, and he said that he did an assessment with you and you confirmed that, and he goes, yeah, I did. I said, why didn't you send that to the court? This dad hasn't seen his kids in 2 years, like what? He goes, well, I just thought the court got. No, every worker that works in this field that is making a penny of a paycheck needs to follow ethics. If you leave a case worse then you got it and you can't fact check, get another job. Don't work in
Right.
child protection. If you don't have guts to stand up when you see something wrong to a judge, commissioner, the Utah Bar, the AFCC, if you want to be on the board of the AFCC and schmooze and bourgeois, and then I know about cases that are going on in the back scenes that you guys are completely destroying and you want to go to a luncheon? Mm-mm. People are going to come out and there's going to be a change, and every victim, survivor, I always like to say survivor because you're surviving, you're
Survivor.
a miracle.
Right.
But we're going to overcome. There's going to be a finish line, and a lot of people are going to look back and go, wow, I am ashamed of myself. I did conferences and promoted that alienation isn't real. Richard Gardner did an article, and I think it's called Past, Present, and Future, about alienation. We are the future. It's our duty. And one of the books that we're publishing now is called A Duty to Warn. And so just know, if you're in a case that seems hopeless, there's hope. We may not be able to change your outcome. I may not be able to help personally on your case because I've had to take a step back, but there's a movement. There is a
There is.
contagious fire of parents who said enough is enough, and adult children, grandparents, fathers' rights crossing over to mothers and helping mothers. I've had some of the most beautiful conversations from fathers that were empathetic that it could happen to mothers too. They didn't know that. And so there's this incredible healing. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there too. So be careful if you get promises, and there's some dirty intentions that are in the sheep's pen, as far as profiting off of alienation and being trendy. And I think that any information should be based out of love. We're not going to abolish hate and horrific abuse from doing it back.
Right.
Our power is in numbers. I think the alienated people that I meet are some of the most beautiful, sensitive souls, empathic. So take care of yourselves. We need you. Like Mary said, too many have lost their lives to it. So thank you for letting me share all this, Mary. It's such a privilege.
Oh, you're welcome, Lily. We need everybody out there, all professionals, to, speak up, because a lot of professionals out there are scared to speak up because they're
Mhm.
scared that they're going to end up being, tagged and they lose their license or they don't get clients. And, the courts are appointing their own people out there, and to make profit, to make money off of us as well, right? So these court appointed professionals are not there for you. They're there for the alienator to bring profit in again. So I'm so grateful that, you can come out and speak out. I mean, I had Dr. Jennifer Harmon come out, Petra Dieter,
Oh,
we had Claudia Oliveras come out as well. We had Dr. Mark Roseman from Florida, Dean Tong, Joe Goldberg. I mean, we've had so many professionals on this podcast
yeah.
that I'm so proud of them for coming out and continuing. They're not just coming on to the show
Mhm.
just to show their face and say, hey, look at me. I want to, they continue to help us. They continue to message me and say, hey, Mary, I got this new paper today. Do you want to read it? Can you proofread it for me? I mean, we got Vernon Beck. I feel like his
Mhm.
secretary, but I told him I want to take a course and become an investigative journalist. And he started laughing at me a couple of weeks ago and said, why? I said, well, so I can get my certificate. He goes, you're working for me. He says, what better person to teach you? And I'm thinking, well, yeah, you're
Funny.
right. I have you, so I could save myself a lot of money by going to school, right? But that's what we've been doing. And Wendy McDonald and I, we have been advocating
Yes.
with Vernon for so many years that we read him before he even sends us all these parenting plans, access to custody, letters. He's been helping us write letters to Premier Doug Ford. He helped us write up the questions for the Attorney General of Ontario, which, by the way, we need to get out there to let Attorney General Doug Downey know that judges don't have the right to tell us we can't enter those courtrooms. They put $165 million into the courtrooms for hybrid hearings. They fitted it for hybrid hearings. Attorney General was telling us this on Facebook, social media. He's got his words, and they refused to let us in last week. The judge
That
wouldn't let
it
Vernon,
is
Wendy,
it's
or
like the
myself into helping advocate for someone in court.
It's like the Wild West. I mean, it really is guns ablazing. I've gone in with evidence of trauma and I'm pretty angry and I'm asking who's responsible, who's liable, and I get threatened. I get
Yeah,
threatened just like opposing counsel threatens our clients. It is a very mean, volatile, vicious. I think the good people who got into family law have gotten out.
yeah.
I don't know a lot. They don't want
My
to.
own lawyer did. He went
They get
into
out.
immigration to help people
That's
that come over.
Well, one of the saddest areas that I see is they get into GAL work. And I feel like you got washed up, you didn't stand up. And then I'm seeing them in these recovery, careers where and they'll even say that when I'm meeting them in conferences. Yeah, I'm in recovery from family law. And I'm like, you should have stood up. You're not in
Yeah,
recovery. Your clients that you
you're
failed are
hiding.
probably in
Yeah,
recovery.
yeah,
But
you're
they'll
hiding it.
even the attorneys are victims of the own system. So why of their own system? So why don't they stand up? So everyone out there, just remember we're 22 million strong. If everyone were to fire their attorney just for a week, just for one semester, just say, imagine, imagine if that pipeline of money was stopped overnight. And a lot of people say,
Wow.
well, I don't want to lose my attorney. I put so much. Well, have they done anything for you? I'll work with the attorneys, and a lot of them will say, no, we're not going to do a custodial interference. Well, if you're not going to enforce the law and you're telling a client to go back to the law that doesn't enforce the law, no, that's not law. That's something else that you've made up. But in my experience, the law has protocols. I'm a mandated reporter. If I witness a crime that impacts children, that's a crime. I'm a mandated reporter. If you're going to watch a crime for years and not report it and profit off it. And so a lot of clients will come and say, I'm scared to lose my attorney. And I'll say, well, we can work with you and your attorney, but I won't work with attorneys that are billing 30,000 and won't stand up. In fact, I had a closed door conversation with a good attorney and he just told me right out, Lily, I'm not going to win the case. And I said, well, what's your plan? Well, he said, I'm just going to say that the dad had an episode. I was like, what do you mean by episode? Well, that he had a breakdown and he lost it and he had a little mental health and he's working in his therapy. And I was like, yeah, this episode has gone on a year and it wasn't an episode. So why are you throwing your client under the bus? And he just came right out and said, I'm not going to win. The GAL, who we all know in Utah, is in bed with this commissioner and I won't win. So we did a little strategy because what did I say? The law protects the law. And mental health protocols protect against professionals that are practicing outside of their scope. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of tools, and Vernon is good at this. And he's the only person. If any other professionals are out there doing direct care, please contact me, because I would love to give you our screeners for litigation, abuse, trauma. We're using things that are standing up saying you can't do that. And as
Yeah,
soon as you have a witness, and professionals can create universal screeners that we all, so Vernon and I have started a support network where I can support his clients in endorsing and he can do mine. And this is what we need, is more professionals to have other professionals that are standing up. But
that's
thank you,
right.
Mary. I can go on and on and on, but I just
Oh,
wanted to bring the
I
message
know we
of hope.
can. We'll have to come back and do another segment, but I have a article here written by Raymond Beck. He's a former infantry sergeant, and he wrote, "Who is the biggest liar? A lawyer, a politician, salesman, a criminal, or a fake saint?" And then he writes that liar and lawyer are all so similar when pronounced. It can be a total coincidence, but lawyers go to law school to learn how to lie and get away with it legally. The other categories are more amateurs. Lawyers are professional lawyers honing their lying skills for decades. If there are saints, it's not the saint who lied, but the church that later made them into a saint. Sainthood comes only when after the saint goes.
And if you don't believe what Mary's saying, look up. There's a couple of YouTube videos about the silver bullet, and attorneys taught that what you just said. I
Yep.
saw a conference, and I wish I could find that video again, where the attorneys said you will win your case starting with the falsified protective order and giving the children to the abusive parent. And it locks the good parent in a battle to mortgage their home, cut off a
I've
limb,
lost
or
everything.
suicide.
Yep.
And all, so imagine that if we started a campaign, I just want to marinate this seed out there and throw it to other activists. If we created something around next year, that as many parents who could walk away and boycott the system, financially not participate, demand mediation in the United States. And Vernon was really helpful with me about this, that you don't have to go to court. And all of us have been told by our lawyers, oh, well, mediation isn't going to work. We'll just check it off. Well, it's not going to work. And they have loopholes in mediation that if you don't agree 100%, it's null. That's not true. All of these things that they're telling you you can't do are not true. So get educated, find out about the penal codes, find out if you can go for disability with litigation abuse and it's genuine, and get mediation. Contact anyone like us, and we can send you our co-parenting manual that can be used with any professional, any therapist. So we're trying to create kind of an Allen wrench, so that people don't have to have a specialist, that we create a
Right.
model.
We all fit in. Yeah,
Thanks, Mary.
exactly.
And
Oh,
thanks to
you're
everybody
welcome,
out there
Lily.
fighting the big fights. Like, you guys lift me up more than I ever have. Everybody who knows me, I have regular breakdowns. I have,
Well, you know what, Lily? It's normal. If you didn't, I mean, that's what a narcissist does. They're the ones that don't break down, right?
well, it's hard to see these cases.
It-
It's hard. It's hard to know that you can help them. And I just don't have enough of me. I don't, but I know if others are willing to learn our model, we'll do a training, for anyone. I don't think we need therapists. I don't think we need lawyers. I think we need specialists. Just like I said, a kindergarten teacher would say, you get first recess, you get second, these negative, da, 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 you're doing, and you're on camera. And every time you do that, you're going to lose a little bit of your parent time, and have to make it up to the other person because you were being a naughty and bad manners.
That's right. That's right.
I'll give them a chit chat, any judge or any judge or family law professional that would like to talk to us. I would just deeply appreciate a phone call from anyone who's profiting off of trauma. And I would just desperately ask that you look into prevention. If you're profiting off children burning in a fire and you're not ever looking for water to put it out, something's wrong with you.
That
You know,
no
we can
empathy,
we can
no
overcome
sympathy.
this. So keep
To
it up,
watch that
Mary.
happen is just disturbing. You know, that's the first thing a normal person would run to is get water.
A
They'd be
normal
looking for
person would,
hoses or
yes.
something, right? Or a
Well,
blanket to
and
throw on the person.
And that starts right at custodial interference. Everybody will say you have to get an attorney, you don't. And I'll always tell them that. So if you were going down the street and someone abducted your child, the whole neighborhood says, no, 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 don't go get the child. Oh my God, what are you thinking? You're going to go get your child, save your child? No, go get an attorney. Who, where?
Where and
And you start to
why?
ask
Yeah.
people and then think about that. So the family
Mm-hmm.
court has created a funnel where they actually suppress people who could get their child back and tell
To
them that
go to
the only
court.
way you can, yeah, this is a whistleblower's duty. Every one
It's
of us, I feel
blackmail. It's blackmail. They're
blackmail.
holding our kids hostage.
And
I
there's,
had a judge. I had a judge the other day literally say, like, what are you talking about? Like, he wanted to know more about it. So I invited him to come on to our Let's Talk show, and we could educate him on how child trafficking is by extorting a parent for money to get their kid back. I mean, isn't that what they're doing? My $1 million home is in the hands of the family courts. My assets, my kids, everything I had.
it's almost unimaginable. And I will say, I didn't say this before. I was naive. I started working in the field at 17. I worked at a correctional facility for kids who had committed such heinous crimes that they were tried as adult. I've worked in treatment facilities, sex offender, the prison, inpatient. I mean, and then I fell in love with this in-home model and a family systems model that treated the parents. And even co-parents that hate, I don't like to use that word, but really want it. They're just so
Despise.
traumatized by each
Yeah.
other. And a lot of them don't realize the court gave you the weapon.
Yeah.
You guys didn't like each other when you divorced, and maybe you had infidelity, cheating, some addictions, but the court puts it on steroids where
Well,
we can't. I
the example of my case was that the judge didn't order child support from me. He gave the kids to the ex, but didn't make me pay child support, but he made him pay spousal support. Come on. Isn't that pitting the parent against the other parent
and that's
with the help
exactly
of
what
the
the
court?
silver bullet does. So if you
Yeah.
think it's your ex, look deeper. If you think
Yeah,
it's just
exactly.
women,
And this is
look
why I
deeper.
want to go back and
Mhm.
say to the judge, you ruined my life. You ruined my kids.
So,
Because,
cases are starting to do that. And that case with
yeah,
Maya, she won. The daughter won. The mother was misdiagnosed as abusing her daughter. And the mother is a very moving. Oh, if you can handle it, trigger warning. The mom committed suicide. And I remember watching the social worker on the stand, and they said, why didn't you include the mom? Why didn't you include her at the dance and the daughter's, events? And the worker said, well, the mom would cry and get so upset, and it was too hard. And they were sued. I think it was 200 million, was it? And that's what's happening now is these workers, these agencies, these hospitals, and soon it's going to be the Bar Association and the Guardian Ad Litems Association. And we have, I talked about that earlier. Some of you are so brave, and I don't know how you navigate that legal system. I'm in mental health, so that's my area that I want to create tools, but I'm so proud of the attorneys that are standing up. I'm so proud of the Guardian Ad Litems that are standing. They're heroes in these sectors, so we have to stay away from all bad. And I fall into that too. I've been I think all of us have to take a look in the mirror, and be very accountable if we've been traumatized, not to allow our trauma to re-traumatize. We've got to get healthy.
yeah,
Don't stop loving. Don't isolate. Don't get depressed. Love more. Move
that's
more.
right.
Like Mary, you
That's right.
said, you would keep your routines. Keep positive music going on. If you have people that are really agitating you, I hate the court. Yeah, get your ex. Don't be around those people. Be around people who are like, we're about solutions. There's solutions. There's a movement. It's going to get overcome. It is. I know it
Yeah.
is. I didn't have faith of that before, but the human
Well,
spirit's too strong.
everything that I wasn't allowed to do while I was married because I had to raise the kids, I got to do it after. And I
I
did it
see
with
that with you.
I did it with love, knowing that that was my passion before. I always wanted to sing. I did sing in my earlier days, but due to domestic violence, I lost my vocal cords being strangled. So when I came out of the divorce, I got to sing again. Even though my voice was, harsh and hard, I still sang. I sang out loud because my kids, while they were home and dad was home, they would say, "Oh, you're not supposed to sing." And
Uh,
this is my kids growing up. So they knew, because I put them in music school and vocal, drums, guitar, you name it. They did everything, not thinking that their father would be so jealous that he would say to them, "Oh, I wasted my money on that one. Oh, you wasted my money on that one." So the kids grew up when the day they got alienated, the day before I got sorry, the day after I got arrested, the music teacher came to the house because I had everyone come in home. I had the money. I was disabled. So all the teachers came to our house and I got to hear my kids practice. So
mm,
that was the
mm.
greatest. But the day after, they were coming to do music lessons on that Saturday. And the teacher wrote a letter to the judge saying when she came to the house to teach the kids their lesson, the father said there'll be no more music in this house and slammed the door in her face. When I went to court, in the court documents, my children wrote saying my mother spent all my dad's money on stupid music lessons. So are these the kids talking, or is it the alienator talking? It's the alienator convincing the kids that we did bad.
Well,
Now,
in
this is how
your case has such a good example too that the alienators will pick out, or the other abusers, coercive control, domestic violence, they'll pick out what you love most.
that's
And
right.
that he strangled your vocal cords. I mean, think
Yes.
about that. He put in the court order. So again, another tip for victims out there, anything that you love your kids, they will go after it. If all, I hate to say this, but this is the psychological craziness of this dilemma, is if the parents walked away from the court and said, I'm going to put my money into a fund. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to do all the things I was going to do for my children. I'm going to scrapbooks, post pictures about them. I'm going to be the normal, loving parent I was, and I'm not going to pay the court. I'm going to, you guys aren't protecting my rights. You're not letting me see. So you're in Utah, the law is called, and people, I've not met one advocate or parent that knows this, and I'm sure it's in other states. It's called encouragement of abandonment. It's child abuse. It's in the penal codes. If someone does it for a benefit, it's considered a felony. And custodial interference, parental abduction, and then child kidnapping has no statutes. So people need to know their rights. And if you're not getting movement in your case, start to look at other ways of standing up and saying, I'm not going to participate in the trauma of my children. I'm not. I remember my guardian ad litem tried to bill me, and I ended up showing her all the penal code. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on and be able to effectively stand up, and then it's too late. But I did say, I'm not going to pay for complicit breaking of the laws. I would lose my license if I did what you do. And if I pay you, and they never came after their bill. So sometimes it's showing them I'm not going to be liable for the destruction of a family that was based on breach of your oath to do no harm. So
Yes.
it's not your fault if you've gone through alienation, abuse, and domestic violence. You might have been a victim, you might have been naive, you might have been, like trying to avoid the signs and doing everything you can to, keep your children safe from what you knew was kind of an abusive home or custody co-parenting situation. But to have your children taken, I want every parent to hear that, every alienated parent to hear, that it wasn't your fault. It wasn't your
It, it
fault.
it's not your fault. It isn't your fault. I mean, this is the hardest. It's like us inviting a kidnapper to come take our kids. I don't think so.
I
It
stood up on the last day of my court, and it was just a joke. I mean, it was I filed evidence. They said it was too excessive. I filed a report from an evidence-based mental health. Well, she wasn't in the AFCC. I mean, you think that you're going to go to court and, oh, I've got perjury. I've got all these laws. I've proven I've got my evidence. It's this high. I've got all these reports. I followed everything they said. And to get there and have them, oh, we're dismissing this, or, we're going to postpone, or we're going to get another assessment. It really fits this litigation abuse syndrome. And if you have that, you really need to get help. It's not very treatable on your own. You need somebody who will show you why that happens. When you start to look at trauma and complex trauma, it changes your neurology to where you start to expect that you're going to be victimized. You
That's
don't see
right.
hope. You don't try to, you stop singing. You stop everything. You do a slow suicide. And that's why it's
Yeah.
urgent that
Yeah.
share this and prevent
I,
it.
yeah. And I noticed too that when I was singing, it was hard on my throat and it brought back memories, a lot of tears. I cried a lot when I sang. So I picked up a saxophone and
I've been
I
watching you,
started
Mary.
and I
It's
started
super
raising
fun.
awareness with it. I got to
I,
play with the top bands in all of Canada. Some came from
Mary,
the UK, from California. And didn't he take me to court saying, "Oh, she plays the saxophone. I want half her money." And I'm thinking, are you for real? After 18 years, you alienated my children, and that's all you could think about is the money I make raising awareness. Well, I didn't make money. I raised awareness, and I'm so proud of it that I didn't take a penny from anybody. I actually had to pay out of my own pocket to get musicians to come out to play for my events, and I never cared. I did not care if it was, and I brought so many families together doing this, but I never got mine. My son came to one of my events, and it was during the Fort McMurray. I was playing at the Army, Navy, Air Force in Hamilton, and I get a message. I sent them all invites all the time. I sent them always an invite to come to my events. And I got one from my son saying, "I want to bury the hatchet. Where are you playing?" Well, I dropped to my knees because I haven't heard from him. That was 2014, and I haven't seen him since 2005. So that's what, 9 years. And I thought, oh, God brought me together for my son. So my son came, but for a split second, I looked in his eyes when I finally spotted him in the room and he ran out. And I was like, that was it. I haven't seen him since. But my music brought millions of people together, you know, we all did videos to Europe or wherever their families were, Russia. They watched their family play in Canada at my events. And, that brought more joy to me than anything else. But it was so amazing that I got to do this because I lost my voice. I got to use it through an instrument.
and it's
And what
so
better way to do it?
what a beautiful story too of hope and recovery and finding your voice again. Whether you were a dancer, there's that Martina McBride song, "Do It Anyway."
You
I
do
don't
it
know if you've
anyway.
heard
Yes.
that. If
Yes,
you
I
can
have
listen to
Molly
that, it kind
dancing
of
to it.
it says if you can spend your whole life, if you get a chance to, if you get a chance after the show, wherever you are, whatever your story is, I'll go
Listen
put it
to it.
on
Yeah.
and listen to it, that you're not alone. And thank you, Mary. Like you've touched me. You're someone I have love for and I look up to, and you've been a hero for so many. And there's so many people that you've touched that have gone on, and I've seen clients post. One client uh posted a poem. Another person that I don't know posted, I know just through a group, but she posted a letter and read it on a video. And all of you who are finding a way to share your voice, it's touching us in ways. I wish I could thank all of the victims out there. I'm still human. I'm still in my path of recovery. I like to own that. Sometimes I have to pull back from projects and groups because it is one case when you're working. I don't know a lot of people that work active cases, but you'll spend sometimes 9 hours. We spent 9 hours the day after Thanksgiving, trying to help someone get their kids back. And it worked. It worked.
Thanks. Nice. Nice.
Thanks, Mary.
I, we don't always end up with, strong enough parents. I mean, we just lost another couple dads recently, but Mark Esquire has all his advocates working still for him, even though he's gone. But we lost Jan Kula a few months ago. He never got to see his kids, and he left a message before he took his life to me, and I still can't share it, but I want to get the message out to his children on how parental alienation destroyed him. And this message is a very strong message. I sent it to Robert Garza. I sent it to people that I know that can do something with it, because when you get a voice of a parent that ends their lives and leaves them on your voicemail, is the hardest thing out there to hear. And I'm here for dads, I'm here for moms, and I'm here for grandparents. I am not, there's, abuse has no gender. Parent alienation has no gender. It's just whoever is evil enough to do it, to hurt a child
Makes me
over
so
the other.
sad. It just, all of us have been in that moment where we started to get dark and we started to get thoughts in our head. And,
Right. But
you know,
I get these calls daily, and it's so hard for me um to come on here and be 100% positive when I know I've lost all these people that have been so close to
it's
my
so
heart.
real. This
It's so
this
real.
is
It's
so
so
real.
real. And our
And
politicians out there need to know that the suicide rate today is so high.
and
Um,
and if you can reach out to each other on the Facebook, if you see some, I'm sometimes, yeah, I have to pace myself, because like obviously I get so emotional, but um, there are ways of giving back and standing up. We've started to do these expressive arts kits with cards that, people can write cards, even though they're never going to send them and they're going to put them. We started these treasure chests, treasure maps, where you can go around the country on your trips and bury something and create a little map or a lockbox. We've started that with messages. So, don't let anyone take away your beauty. Anyone out there that's surviving, you're a miracle. You're a
yes,
miracle. You're a
yes,
cycle breaker.
yeah. And if anybody out there is that desperate to take their lives, just reach out to us. We are here all the time. I mean, I take calls all night long, all day long. I mean, a lot of times I'm burnt out, but I'm always here to hear your story to help you feel better. There is hope. It's hard to say that you'll get your kids back, but we're trying our best to get all these bills passed to stop this so that we can all enjoy our children. I'm doing this for my future grandchildren. My children are in their late 30s, and I'm still fighting for everybody else's kids. I don't have grandchildren yet, but one day I will. But I'd like to, they don't need to hear or even think that their grandma is abusive, because I never was. So we need to get these out of the generational stigma is what's happening, because this is a generational curse. It's passed down from family to family, 6 generations, if it's anybody out there want to believe it or not. But that's how long it's going to
It's
take to clear out these generations of skeletons, because there's a lot of hidden secrets in families, right?
and even
And
in our own, they get in our own psyche, and they, how dare them, so if anyone from your abusive, professional team that failed, or the family that enabled the abuser, really protect yourself from any of those voices, because you get victimized so much that honestly the abuse gets in your own head, and it's really important that survivors know that is not you. That's what happened to you, and you're not
right,
that, and you're strong, and maybe we were all called. Maybe I one day, I can close with this, Mary, but one day I got really dark, and I don't want to talk a lot about it, but I asked God and I got really mad. I'm not really proud of what I said, but I was given the message that I love you so much that I let you choose what you wanted to do with your life. And you told me that you wanted to help the most vulnerable. And I told you, you're going to have to experience it or else you're not going to be able to help them. And I never thought about it that way. But now that we're here, we are called. And there's a beauty in that that gives us a real sacred purpose together. So I just want to thank everyone out there. I've been carried when I couldn't carry myself, and I've carried others. And it's kind of like the Freedom Trail. It's some really cool people out there, like
There
you,
is.
Minnie. So thank
Thank
you
you.
again.
Thank you. I just want to say hi to Dolores. We didn't expect to be on the show this long. We got away, got, talking here. I mean, we're almost an hour and a half on. So much for the short one, but it's okay. We got a lot out to, help people out there. And, oh, I just have to read this. Dolores, can you read that, Lily, for us?
Yeah, holding vigil at family courts for all past, present, and possible future children and their parents who have succumbed to the legal abuse of the system. Hope. Hold on, pain ends. Oh my gosh, I love that because ours is voice of hope. Oh my gosh, that feels so
Thank you for that, Dolores. Dolores goes to the court and she sets up her little table out there and she, educates people as they're going into the courtroom. She doesn't do anything illegal. She is very strong advocate in New York, I think it was, Long Island. I have so many people that it's hard to remember where they're all from, but I believe Dolores is in New York and she is just amazing. She comes on our show and does our birthday specials. We were supposed to do last Sunday, but I don't know what happened, but my daughter's birthday is on the 15th of this month. She'll be 36 years old and I missed 19 years of it. And it's so hard. Long Island. She is from Long Island. Thanks, Dolores. I knew I was right. Long Island is New York, right?
I don't know if New Yorkers say that.
I don't know.
Yes.
My mother's American. She immigrated from Hungary, so she became an American citizen. And I have brothers born in New Jersey. No, New York he was born. Died in Mount Sinai, and he's buried in New Jersey. And I don't know why they did that, but we're still looking to get answers. That was in 1957. So when my brother died, my mom came to Canada and became a Canadian citizen. So she's a bit of everything out there, and she's lived 92 years and hasn't seen her grandchildren in 19. Some of them she hasn't seen in 40 years. Because my nieces and nephews are well in their 40s. And alienation is not just happening today. So there's decades of skeletons in people's lives that they haven't seen their nieces, their nephews, their kids, their parents. It's something that we really need to do a lot of education on.
Yeah.
But I got to end this because we're getting close to an hour and a half. Your last thoughts, Lily, quickly, to parents out there that are dealing with this right now.
This might not be the best closure. I really always try to close on a positive, but as you were talking about your case, I wanted to say that there are those of us out there, and I saw a video, and if I could explain it, it would be in this video of a mom. It was a for-profit prison where a corrupt a professional, I can't say politician, a professional made considerable money off of a for-profit prison contract, and they kind of promised that it was a juvenile prison, so he promised that they would have the beds filled. Now think about that. He promised that the beds were filled. A woman came up to him in the street when he was talking about the success of this new facility, all the money that went into it, and she unloaded on him, and she just said to him, "My son hung himself, and he never should have been in that detention center. He smoked pot. You guys got him in there. Then he got depressed. Then you got him on meds. And then, and she, and I, you could just feel it in crawling on your skin of a parent's love. And I just want you to know that's what you all have. It may be stifled, but that voice that says, I am standing up, enough is enough. There's 22 million of us and we've had it. And keep that tone. Keep it.
Yes,
Don't let it
that's
scare you. That's
that's
a
great.
parent's a love for all children. And so keep your voice, find your voice. If you've lost it, get it back again and find others who nurture the best in you because we need you guys to be your best. You're the safe
That's
parent.
great. Yeah, we need fit, healthy
Thank you,
parents
Mary.
to fight this.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you,
letting me
Lily.
share. All right.
Thank
God
you.
bless you all.
Okay, don't jump off yet. From Molly and I, thank you to all the viewers out there, all the alienated parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren, even. Reach out to your family.
Reach out.
It's the only family you'll ever have, and when they're gone, it'll hurt you more. It'll hurt more when you don't have them to be able to reach out and say, hey mom, or hey dad, or hey grandma, your brothers or your sisters,
Yes.
because kids are alienated from each other. It's to divide the whole family so that nobody speaks out about what they've gone through. But anyways, thank you. Until Tuesday, we have Carrie Ann George coming on Tuesday, the 3rd at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. So we're looking forward to speaking with Carrie Ann as well. She is from the U.S. and we will be talking about federal court and all that good stuff again. So until then, thank you everyone from Molly and me. She's tired too and she needs another treat. So I gotta go get her something. But
Thank you, Mary.
thank you for having come out to speak with us, Lily. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
You're
Mary.
welcome.
All right.
Okay. Good night, everyone.